We are currently live. Look at that. So you want to have a race again? See who can share it on their Facebook
You
the
know,
fastest?
damn well mine's not even updated yet. There it goes.
You're gonna actually beat me. Oh, that was my. Can you
No,
hear it when it does that? Did you hear my
I
phone just
heard
ring?
that. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's my son calling me. Probably asked me what time I'm
Boom!
gonna
I
pick
was
him up.
done. I'm done.
Dude, you totally
I'm
beat me this
done.
time. Yeah, you beat me.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
sorry, dog. I didn't mean to freak you out. My dog's like, wait.
And
Why are you
it won't
clapping?
even let
Why
me.
are
You beat me.
we excited? Yeah. I'm sorry, dog.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to
What the? Oh my
freak you
god!
out.
I can't believe what's happening here. Okay. Yeah, you beat me.
I don't even know this thing that I'm drinking.
Who knows? Some latte thing.
Dana bought it. Slate
Oh, don't blame it on her. It was you.
lactose free energy.
You're getting in touch with your they them side.
And so what if I am
All right.
Trini? What if I
There's
am?
nothing wrong with that. I accept you for who you are, man. I'm just glad you're
Yeah.
finally honest with all of us.
I think I'm gonna shave my beard today.
Whoa, no, don't do that. All right. You ready for me to run this intro?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom.
There it is.
Exactly. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is the Dharma Time Hour and or edition, whatever you want to call it. And as always, he is the one and only the Dope Doctor, and I am one of many, maybe I don't know, the Dharma guy. I'm me,
No, one of two.
and
And I'm one of two because there's a group that stole my name years ago, and I should have
really,
did a cease and desist. Yeah, a musical group took my name a long
oh
time ago.
wow,
I should have did a cease and desist on them.
I
And
know
there's
there's
only
another
one.
Dharma Time on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking about. That
Yeah,
dude.
yeah. There's a Dharma Time on YouTube. He's like some I think he's like an old monk who like
Oh,
put some interesting stuff.
he's an old monk.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways,
You
I'm
should
old.
dress
I
like
just
that. To
don't.
be honest with you,
Not gonna happen. No. Although I bet you it's comfortable. I gotta admit,
dude.
those orange robes look comfortable.
Dude, comfortable, and it would have like a cool
Yeah.
look, man. You'd look like that dude from Kung Fu.
before or
Little
after,
Pyramid.
before or after
That he was
the
hanging.
yeah,
When you
the
making fun of his
autoerotic
hanging,
asphyxiation.
the dude
What
has
a
a
way to
whole
go!
great body of work, and that's what you
Yeah.
remember him by.
Oh come on, most people that's what they remember. By the way, I mean what a way to go. Anyways, I digress. Before we get way off topic,
Yeah, I remember him
thank you,
from Urban Cowboy,
Herbie Cow. Wow, I remember from Kung Fu the Legend. I remember
of
him.
course.
I watched that a lot
Yeah,
actually.
of course.
Um, anyways, welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this live, today is Tuesday. By all means, feel free to comment and put some thoughts in. Got an interesting topic today. And if you're watching live, it's most likely or only, I guess, on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or Twitch Live. Each one of those, you just look up Dope and Dharma, and you can join the conversation, leave your comments, and we will do our best to address them as we see them. And welcome to those of you who are only listening via podcast, although you're listening after we're live because I have to upload it. So,
No.
anyways, all right. So, first and foremost, as of last night we did the couch live where we not only do on all those same platforms, but we also are locally on a radio station. I did not have this bit of news until afterwards, so I can announce it first here today. I am COVID free. Yay. Myself and my wife are both COVID free. We tested last night, and thankfully we were both negative, and we can finally get back to the realm of the living. As a matter of fact, at the top of the show, my phone, when it was ringing, that was my son asking me when I'm going to come pick him up because I haven't seen my son or my daughter really since July 9th. Yeah, it's
Wow.
kind of sucked, man. Like I'm gonna be honest, and it's actually, what a great segue. So when the pandemic first hit, we had our quarantine. I gotta be honest with you, didn't bother me at all. Matter of fact, I kind of liked the quarantine. I did well. It ended up helping me a lot. I don't have to drive all the way to New Smyrna. I was able to do the show from here. Like I saved gas money. Like it worked well for me. But I know a lot of people struggled. I know a lot of people had bouts of like depression and things of that nature. Um, didn't happen to me except for this last time when I've had COVID. It was pretty rough, man. It started affecting me. I started getting like cabin fever. I started feeling like, dude, I gotta like do something. Like, between just the overall feeling ill, not being able to see my kids at all, um, not being able to go anywhere to do anything at all. Like I couldn't even go out of the house. It sucked, man. It was rough. Maybe not to the extent that other people have gone through, obviously, but in my own way, it was definitely worse than the original pandemic for me. However, the reason why I say a segue is I sent you the story. I don't know, it was probably last week sometime ago. I don't remember what day, but
Yeah.
so there's a study done about depression. Now, the conventional wisdom for many years that I know of, they've always looked at depression as a chemical imbalance. Um, and they said that there's some sort of a chemical imbalance, which is why they put you on SSRIs, which would be the something serotonin uptake inhibitor, whatever it is. Basically, they said it was some sort of an issue with your serotonin or your dopamine levels, and they needed to balance it out. And that was the conventional wisdom. That's how they based a lot of their treatment on, in reference to depression. Now, the study that just came out, full disclosure, before we get into this, it's a study. I think it probably needs to go through a lot more. It might need to be replicated. So we're not going to take it as the end all be all, like holy grail here. However, for the purposes of this discussion, I think we're going to both move forward as if the study is legitimate and accurate, just so we can have a discussion on it. It very well could come out, a couple years down the road that it was flawed in some way or it couldn't be replicated. Who knows? But the study basically said uh, there's no correlation or there's no direct causation here between chemical imbalances and depression. Meaning, they tested a bunch of people and they found that it wasn't necessarily a chemical imbalance that was leading to depression. Which to me, I think that's kind of like, let's just start there. Like, is that as big as I feel that it is, in your opinion? Because that feels to me like that's a big deal. Like that doesn't feel like it's a small little like blip on the screen. That feels like whoa, right? I mean, am I wrong in that assumption?
No, it could be. It could be very big. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of questions. I mean, I didn't look into the study itself or to see even how many people were studied. Um, I don't know what kind of sampling they took. I don't know what the details were on the individuals. I don't know who was excluded, who was included. I don't know the different variables or the controls that they use. So I don't know. I guess what I would
Right.
think though, like you said, let's take it as if it's 100% accurate. If
Yeah,
something
just
like
for the
that,
purposes of the show.
yeah, if something like that were 100% accurate, that would be a very big deal. Only it would be a big step backwards for the medical community, and maybe a huge leap forward for the therapeutic community. Um, I think there's a lot of therapists that have been referring to psychiatrists or psych
Right.
professionals for quite some time now for people to get on medication. And then, unfortunately, there's a lot of people on medication that never seek therapy. They get on the
Yeah.
medication either from a primary care physician or from their maybe a psychiatrist, but usually a primary care physician, unfortunately, and just do the meds without any kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
internal work, without any kind of the work that we see people in recovery do. For instance, like people that recover from a substance use disorder tend to they go to meetings, they go to therapy, they go to counseling, they may go to rehab, they
Right.
do intensive outpatient. There's so many different types of treatment that people would with that disorder do. Yet with mental health, mental illness, it's not really pushed.
Yeah.
Um, it's
They
it's
push
typically
meds.
medications. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pushing meds.
Yeah.
And so, even though we
Um.
have millions of therapists, by the way, yeah, we push out more therapists than lawyers, in this country. I mean, everybody thinks they're a therapist. Everybody is a therapist. Um, there's a ton. There's a ton.
Well, all right. So I pulled up the study real quick just so I can give the cliff notes. Cliff notes. The first one here is researchers from University College London, conducted an umbrella review of past meta studies and systematic analysis of depression's relationship to serotonin.
Right.
For years, a chemical imbalance of serotonin has been widely viewed as the culprit for depression, resulting in the widespread use of antidepressants.
Right.
And then finally, the study published this week in the journal of Molecular Psychiatry concluded that there's no clear evidence that serotonin levels or serotonin activity is responsible for depression.
I
Yeah,
mean, can I say something real quick?
yeah.
First of
Go
all, I
ahead.
think we have one big flaw and problem in the mental health field, and that
Uh-oh.
is no. I'm just saying we don't have the X-ray, we don't have the blood test,
Yeah.
we don't have the simple examination with physical proof that we could say, look, here's your lowered level of blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
my wife was able to take my spit. I think she took. Send it off to some unknown company, probably in China, and gets this result that I have high levels of what she said, copper.
Okay.
Copper,
Random.
like I care. Like I don't even know what that means.
Have you been licking
Like
pennies?
yeah, I might be shitting pennies. Apparently, that's I don't know. But the point is that we were able to find that, but we have no test that like we do normally that says here's your normal serotonin level, here's your dopamine level, here's your enkephalin level, all these different kind of chemistry that we have, these natural opioids that we have, these natural substances that we have endogenously that give us these pleasant feelings or well feelings or feelings
Right.
of well-being. We have no test for that, and that's the big we've spent more money on the band-aids rather than
Right.
on
Well, don't we
searching
have
for
tests?
the
They're just
actual
not
chemistry.
done regularly.
I don't know. Do you know of a serotonin test?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know that I've had a lot of tests done in the last couple months that I never even heard of. That I was shocked to find out. Like you could test for certain things, and why isn't that done like on a regular? Like why is it?
Probably because it'll
What?
need a spinal tap.
Yeah. But either way, I think for me, I instantly so my analytical debating kind of brain instantly when I heard that
Right.
study, first of all, was like, whoa, that feels like a big deal. Secondly, it made me question, like, obviously in spirituality, uh, um, I think spirituality is where I first kind of stumbled across the concept. It's obviously older than what I'm aware of. It's been around a lot longer, but my introduction to it, to the human condition, right, was through my spiritual studies. Um, and so could we then argue then that and bear with me here once again, I'm just throwing it out. I'm not saying I necessarily believe it. I'm not saying I don't believe it, but I just it to me this study bears debate and conversation. So
Okay.
is it possible then that depression isn't really a thing? It's just a human condition, right? Because part of the human condition from a spiritual sense is being struggling with coping with things, struggling with dealing with things, thinking about things in ways that aren't necessarily rational, like uh, um so is it possible then that what we call depression is really just struggling with dealing with the human condition? Is that possible?
I think it would still be a thing.
Yep.
Now, whether it be a disease or not, or that type of disorder, I think that's what
Right.
we're really questioning, right? I mean, I think depression still is a thing, and I think there's different levels of depression. I think what they're going to
Right.
find out as they dig deeper into this research is that there's some individuals that just identify as depressed. And we do know that
Right.
you can just identify as depressed. How am I supposed to prove that you're not depressed? Like, what am I supposed to do? Tell you you're not
Sure.
depressed? I have to validate your feelings, right? No matter what you tell me you feel, I got
Right.
to somehow validate it even if I'm trying to help you with it. I got to come to where you're at first, and then I got to kind of unwrap it and try to help you get to a different place, right? But there's actual symptomology that is very common amongst those with
Yeah, I'm
severe
looking up
clinical
the actual
depression.
definition right now.
Okay. Yeah, there's an actual symptomology that people with actual clinical depression suffer. They have these same set of symptoms. Now, without those set of however, we've all been sitting at home watching football or whatever, and then they come across and they go, "Have you had this? Have you had this? Have you had this?"
Yeah, we all did.
And then
Okay.
next thing you know, they want us to call our doctor and ask them about some medication on the market because we have all these symptoms.
Okay, so here's some definitions. which, wow, okay. I just typed in depression definition and a lot came up. The first
Yeah.
one says depression is a group of conditions associated with the elevation or lowering of a person's mood, such as depression or bipolar disorder. And then it
Right.
goes into most common types. I'm only going to read the first three. First one is clinical depression, a mental health disorder characterized by persistently depressed mood or loss of interest in activities causing significant impairment in daily life. Second one is persistent depressive disorder, a mild but long-term form of depression. And then finally, excuse me, bipolar disorder, a disorder associated with episodes of mood swings ranging from depressive lows to manic highs. Um, that first definition, though, of clinical depression, a mental health disorder characterized by persistently depressed mood or loss of interest in activities causing significant impairment. So that to me, I think, is where the debate could lie, right? Like one could argue from a spiritual perspective that that definition of depression is just, man, I'm just having a rough go of it right now, right? Like,
Well, no, you got to dig in deeper than that. I mean,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing the Cliff Note version, and the Cliff Note
of
version that
course.
you're doing is the DSM-5. I mean, I'm assuming that right there it'll cite DSM-5 is where they got
Let me
this
see.
information, but they're
Let me see.
giving you the Cliff Note. They're not giving you all the further details, which is fine.
It just for Mayo Clinic is what it said.
Right, and the Mayo
And I
Clinic
just picked the first one.
yeah, and the Mayo Clinic is citing the DSM-5. And that's the diagnostic statistical manual that we use. It's been approved through the World Health Organization, which is how we come up with all issues related to mental health disorders, right?
Right.
And it's routinely, that's why it's the 5, because we had the 4 not too long ago. This 5 is new in the last 2 years, I believe.
Right.
So it's constantly being upgraded. It's constantly being retooled to better identify things, and it's on a global level. So it's people in
Right.
all countries, all types, trying to figure this stuff out. Now, if you just take it for like a smooth stroke statement, yeah, I mean you could say a lot of different things about
Right.
it. I can give you symptoms for almost every disorder in that book, and you'll be able to at least have some sort of conversation about it. And I think this is where
Right.
we get to the practicing of psychology as well. Now it's a philosophy,
Yes.
right? It's not an exact science, and we have altered it throughout the years. I mean, remember, it wasn't that long ago where we actually did lobotomies as standard practice.
Yes.
Um,
There was a time where we thought women who had their periods were hysteria and needed to be like shocked and stuff. So
wait, they're not.
the views and opinions expressed by
I was kidding. I kid. No.
So Richard made a comment though. I think we should address.
Yeah, put it up there.
Yeah, he said. Let me put it up there. He said, first of all, once again, this is Richard. He's one of our listeners, and he's commenting on Facebook Live. Once again, if you want to participate, by all means, you can go to Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or Twitch and make comments, and we will address them. He said, I have a question. Why is it that in the last 20 to 30 years, mental illness has become so rampant in our society? Could it be that the go-to treatment was medicine versus deeper dives into people's history and actually diagnosing or identifying the root problem with the necessity of pharmaceutical treatment?
Right. Yeah. Great question, Richard. It has been more. It's probably been discussed a lot more, maybe even in the last decade than ever before, which is a good thing. It really is a good thing, because mental illness is an issue. It always has been throughout the generations. Is there a pharmacological advantage for certain industry? Yes, there's an advantage to an industry of the pharmaceutical industry, what you would call big pharma, of course, because it tends to be long-term use of these products. It's not like it's a one and done. It's like you need to take it on a regular basis. And anyone who's ever been on an antidepressant, and I have to admit I have not, but obviously a lot of my patients have. Anybody who's ever been on an antidepressant knows you just don't get on and off of it. First of all, it takes 2 to 4 weeks to even kick in properly, and then you shouldn't just quit it. You have to wean yourself off it. And then there's a lot of side effects attached to an antidepressant. Now you add to that the anxiolytics and the anti-anxiety medications like the benzodiazepines and stuff like that. Now you're going into a whole different realm. If you look at the deeper stuff, I think it's much easier to not argue the schizophrenia and the severe, psychosis type disorders, rather than the ones who look to be more subjective. And here's what I mean by that. You asked earlier, could it not just be human condition, right?
Right.
And if you've ever been around a paranoid schizophrenic, now you're looking at that and you go, all right, that's a different animal right there. What
Yes.
that person's experiencing right there, that's a whole different
Yeah.
situation than maybe your daughter coming to you, Trinity, and saying, I'm depressed or I have
Right.
anxiety, right? All right.
Sure.
So you and I both have children. They use words like depression and anxiety differently than we did. They use words like
Yes.
stress differently than we did. That's a
Yes.
generational thing. I know more young people on medication for anxiety today than ever before in history that I know of.
Agreed.
Than ever before. Now, mind you, we have a drug out there. Now, this is where we can get in trouble, not with the audience. Usually I say things that I'm worried about, somebody's going to send a nasty email. In this one, I actually may get shot and killed. So please keep this tape.
Oh boy.
Nobody ever attacks Xanax as far as publicly.
Right.
We have attacked opioids, the big opioid companies and all that, but not Xanax. Xanax is like off limits. It's the mama's little helper on steroids under Quaaludes, because Quaaludes are now gone. that nobody is allowed to attack, even though it's been associated with millions of suicides. It's been associated with millions of overdoses. Add them up. Look at coroner reports. It seems to always be there. It seems to always have its little place in there. I'm not saying it's a causation kind of thing. I'm not saying Xanax causes suicide or Xanax causes overdoses. What I'm saying is it tends to be there a lot with a lot of issues. And it's highly addictive, a lot more than Klonopin or Valium, which are in the same family of benzodiazepines, because it's the big daddy of benzos. Because again, Quaaludes is no longer around unless you go to another country, you'll get it. But when you have Xanax, it's highly addictive, and trying to get off it, you can suffer death. You can have a stroke getting off it. So now they got you hooked. Remember we did the show on Needs versus Wants yesterday on the Couch Live. I mean, that's something that makes you dependent upon something, so you just can't really get off it. So unfortunately, we have a lot of people, especially a lot of young people, that are getting fed this medication early on, and because you want a quick fix and you want to feel it, trust me, you'll feel Xanax pretty quickly, and it'll do the job it's intended to do at the moment. So people tend to try to hold on to it and use it whenever they feel like they need it. But that's very subjective up here. That's what's subjective up here. So we tend to use it more and more and more, and you use it a little bit more, you become dependent on it. And unfortunately, we have way too many people on a medication like that. And then when it goes away, you're like, oh, I have anxiety. Well, of course you do, because you just took a medication that told your brain to stop making the natural GABA that you actually need to reduce your levels of anxiety. But guess what? You need anxiety. You need anxiety to feel good, right? You need anxiety to make you work, to make you do things. Because if you didn't, you just sit like this. If you weren't anxious about anything, you wouldn't give a damn about anything.
I think that's where some of the debate can come in.
Right.
Well, I think that's where some of the debate can come in, right? Like, once again, we're posing these questions as debate topics, and we're just trying to have a philosophical discussion about it. Our true opinions, we may or may not put out there, but I think that's where some of the debate could come in. Like, for instance, right now we're in. So my oldest son, right? He's 22 now. I remember a conversation with him years ago. And he said his goals were to be, I think he said safe and comfortable. That's what his goals were.
Right.
And I was like, that's interesting, right? To think at like 17 years old, that's what his goal was. And I was like, my initial thought was like, well, wait a minute. Safety is an illusion, first of all. And comfort, like, you never really progress if you're always comfortable, right? If you're not made to be uncomfortable, then you're not really going to adapt to anything. You're not going to grow. But that was like, and it wasn't just exclusively to him. There was a whole generation of kids who I don't know how to say it other than just like sheltered almost, right? Like they've been kept away from so many things that we would consider bad, right? Like, bullying, just things that we as kids were taught to thicken our skins up and taught to adapt to. Yeah. They're kept from a lot of those these days, and so therefore one could argue that they don't have the skill set then to adapt when that inevitably does present itself. And they do look at things like anxiety, for instance, as a big no-no, meaning Anxiety's bad. I should never have it. When you and I both know as adults, no, not necessarily. Anxiety isn't inherently a bad thing. Anxiety has kept us alive as a species for millennia. Because hey,
Right.
there's a saber-toothed tiger. I'm going to avoid that. I'm worried. I think he's around. Let me go check. Like, anxiety is not necessarily a bad thing. And so we have a whole
No,
generation
not
of
at all.
people out there who are trying to constantly, prevent it. And for me, from a spiritual perspective, obviously that comes into our avoidance of feeling anything that we don't want to feel. This
Right.
idea of chasing good and getting rid of bad is what causes us to suffer, because you can't really do it. But it does bother me though that we're so quick. Like, so we're gonna be all over the place today, by the way, if you guys are
Well,
following. But
before you leave that, are you going to go on a different point? Because I was going to say something about what you just said
go
right
ahead,
there.
go ahead.
There is a crippling level, though. There's a
Sure, of
crippling
course,
level to that.
of course.
So once you get past the initial minor forms of depression, or even, I don't know, the highly debatable types of depression or anxiety, there are crippling levels of anxiety. So I want to make sure that while we're doing this conversation, that you're not sitting there becoming more anxious and more angry as you're watching this, because you're thinking, "Oh my God, you guys are deniers. You're mental health deniers."
Yeah,
That's
that is
not what we're
not what we're
saying.
doing.
That's
No,
not what we're saying. I just think that there's other ways of viewing it other than a big blanketed stroke, because
of course.
by some people's actual definitions of what anxiety is, then everyone has it. By some
Right,
people's definition of what they think depression is, everyone has it. And
right,
and and unfortunately, just like alcoholism used to be a clinical word, and then people just took it out and then started using it on their own, and self-diagnosing themselves as alcoholic or non-alcoholic. Same thing with depression and anxiety. We've had
right.
people that have diagnosed themselves for so long that the actual true definitions of those words are now gone, to the point where, my daughters have been offered more medication and have come and asked me about more medications based on their friends that they've had, saying, "Oh, maybe I should get on medication because my friend said, my
Right.
friend said it helped her do this, or helped her study, or helped her get through this test, or helped her not feel this way when she was doing this." And it's like, whoa, 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 no, you're supposed to feel nervous before
Yeah.
a test. Cramming, it doesn't feel good. Yeah, these are uncomfortable feelings when you're not prepared. These are, or because
Yeah.
there's a lot writing on it. This is normal. Yeah, you know what I mean. You are people do get distracted. I get distracted. I see squirrels everywhere. It doesn't require medication for it. It requires an additional sense of focus and some other things that we can practice doing. I'll show you what I've done in my life to be able to do that.
Right.
And I've had to educate them. No, I've had this symptomology that other people out there take medication for, but I'm going to show you why I choose not to, because that's what you use when all the natural stuff has failed you. When everything else you've tried has failed you, then you can do that, because that's always going to be there. But why not try this stuff first? Because if you try the chemistry first, it alters the way your brain operates, and therefore now all the natural stuff is no longer ever going to match to that, because nothing does. If you don't believe me, think of something like God, man, think of something that really gives you a good feel, like a jolt of anything, well, what I was drinking earlier, this caffeinated beverage, whatever this thing was. If once you do this, natural forms of trying to get energy, why would I do that? Why would I spend all the time having to do that when I know I could just drink this and get there quicker? You know what I mean? I don't
Right.
have to
Sure.
I don't have to get as much sleep. I don't have to rest. I don't have to do breathing exercises. I don't have to work out. I don't have to eat kale and spinach and stuff like Popeye told me to. I could just drink this and get it falsely. So that's the issue with once you go to chemistry. Now, I'm sorry I took so long.
No, no. Well, that's why I said we're going to be all over the place, man. And thank you for bringing the other one up. Yeah, I want to continue to preface that we're not, denying these things exist. We're just having dialogue. I know that's shocking to some people, but dialogue still exists these days, and we're able to converse
Right.
about stuff and throw out some ideas. Now, maybe those ideas aren't always going to be good. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. But to me, that's the importance of dialogue, is to have these conversations. But you brought up something earlier. So you know, I've only been in the addiction world now for, oh my god, dude, like 10 years.
Oh no,
Wow.
10
A
years
little
now.
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
over 10 years
It
now.
still feels new, but either way, so I didn't know anybody who went through like the 12 steps and those other things, or rehab, not openly anyways, prior to meeting you and coming into this world a little bit. And over the years, I have been so blown away and impressed with like the 12 steps, right? I
Hmm.
having been a part of that world now for 10 years and meeting so many people and talking to some people, I really do think that something equivalent of that should be like mandatory for everybody. I think everybody should have to go through some form of the 12 steps or some form of rehab, because it balances you out in such a way that I don't see anywhere else right now. Meaning there are so many people right now walking around with like trauma, with too much anxiety or whatever it may be, pain, that they don't know what to do with, and it's not pushed. It's not cool to address it, right? Like even myself, I feel like that I'm pretty in tune with who I am and what I've been through, excuse me, and how I've all the past pains and traumas and whatnot. But even me now at 40 some years old, there's still things that I'm learning that I'm like, damn, I didn't realize, like things that I just thought were part of my mo. I'm realizing not really, like that's not necessarily the healthiest thing, and I'm realizing how to counteract some of that or whatever. And some of them I don't want to, and some of them I do. My point is that yes, we are so quick to like prescribe or to take a substance, and we're not so quick into like the spiritual realm, right? Let's just call it what it is. The spiritual realm. Like spirituality is
Right.
just not cool. It's just not pushed. It's either you typically fall into a few different classes. One is religion, where you're either pro or anti-religion. Another one is you're either like kind of cuckoo spiritual, is what I call it personally, and we all know at least a couple of them. And for me personally, hey man, if that is what gets your world going, by all means. But for me personally, when you start talking about the crystals and all this, you kind of lose me.
Oh boy,
I
here we
don't.
go.
So, but hey, they're out there. They exist. but like if you look at the mainstream, there's not like this push to really truly get to know who you are and look into your demons and get into all that. There's a huge push instead of just get over it, get to where you got to get, and if you need to, take a pill or something. And so for me, I look at how remarkable some of the 12-step work is. And it's not just the 12-step, it's all the stuff that comes along with it. I got to be honest with you, man. Some of the most, it's like an oxymoron, right? And I mean this with the most love and respect I possibly can, but I don't know how else to put it. Some of the most messed up people I've ever met in my life are in recovery, but some of those exact same people are the most put together people I've ever met in my life as well, right? So they started out in such a messed up kind of world,
I'll take
but
that as
they've
a
gone
compliment.
through what they need to go through, and they come out the other side the most well put together, balanced, and in touch that I've ever met. And I don't think that that's an
Mm.
accident. I think that's by design. I think they address their stuff, and they come out the other end, and they're just wow. And so I would be remiss if I didn't say, man, like there's something to that. Like, why are we not employing that in a much wider sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you're starting to sound like a priest or a reverend or a rabbi. You know that, there,
Well,
Dharma
I am
guy.
the Dharma guy, so I'm going to put that out
I
there.
mean, well, I know, I know you don't intend to mimic them, but I think that's what people of faith are trying to say. I think they say actually, except they use their language instead of yours. They feel like there's a strong decay in our world, in our existence at the moment. Um, and yeah, there you go. Put up Richard Coleman's comment right there, because that's exactly what I was. That's what I was saying. You're starting to sound just like Richard Coleman, except
But it
where he
doesn't
may
have to be
say,
religion.
you know, no, all right, you say that, but you're saying the same thing is what I'm saying. So when you say people should be forced to do the 12 steps, that's
I don't mean
because you're
forced.
not viewing.
I don't mean
or,
forced,
or
but
well,
tell me what the bad
you
part
did
would be.
you did say that, but I know what you meant. But what I'm saying is, you're
Right.
thinking that, though. You're thinking along those lines, that everybody should be required to do some of this work, right? Well, I
I
think
think that
that's what
there's something to
religious
be
people are
said
saying as
for
well.
doing internal work, right? We rely
This
so
is a
much
this is a
on.
free life, though. This is a
Sure.
but yeah, I hear you, Trinity, but I
I
think
don't
that,
mean from a government
unfortunately,
stance.
and I'm
I don't
with
mean
you.
from a
If
government
first of all,
stance.
by the way, but Well, I mean, regardless, whether it be a government or a church, or because you live in the city, or whatever. The point is that um, it's not that I don't agree with the should part in one part of my brain,
Sure.
and then there's another part of my brain that's like Che Guevara. You know what I mean? There's Che Guevara that says no, that can't happen. Yeah. So there's part of my
No.
brain that says absolutely. I mean, some of this stuff should be mandatory. Like, you should learn how to use your damn turning signal when you're driving a vehicle,
Well,
and
that
stay out
kind
of
of
the
is
damn fast lane
mandatory.
unless you're
They
passing.
just don't do it.
Not really. Not really. Not
Well,
really.
here's what I mean, right? Here's what I'm getting at. So I have kids,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And my kids are they're coming into their own right now. They're learning on who they are and what they
Right.
like, what they don't like, and who they want to be.
Right.
And they're going to school and they're learning all these things. But there isn't a set authority, if you will. And I'm trying to choose my words carefully here, and I'm not going to succeed in this. But there's no like other than my own personal ways, which I'm not 100% qualified to do. There's nowhere I can take them right now to, like, hey, let's help figure some of this stuff out. Now, granted, that's where religion would come in, right? If I was
Yeah.
religious, I could take them to
Yeah.
the church or something like that. But for
Right.
the individuals, but that's the thing, is it doesn't have to be a religion. Some of the same kind of philosophies and the same kind of techniques could be done with anything. Like, once again, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. I think that's where the divide
Right.
comes in. And I think
Right.
the problem is too many people who are not religious get turned off from some ideas and techniques that could absolutely help them because there's a religious undertone or
But
component.
it's like a lot of other things, right? It's like it's really easy to poo-poo something, but a lot harder to come up with a solution, right? It's much easier
Right.
to knock down what's not working.
Right.
But unfortunately, the solution still will require some sort of structure.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, the structure. Look, free will is great, but I don't. If you're a parent out there, you cannot possibly tell me that not even less than 10% of you are cool with free will with your kid. Guarantee.
Exactly.
Guarantee. Especially all you
Well,
helicopter parents, you like absolutely give zero free will to your kids. I mean, you
so
constantly have
if we
something to
added,
say
explain to me
regardless.
the negative, right? Explain to
Right.
me the downside of implementing some version of the 12-step process to, like our school age children. I'm just
Do you,
spitballing here. But
do you
explain to me
agreeing
the
to it?
downside. Huh?
The simple agreeing to it. We
Okay.
are we have been in a culture of disagreement, and we have been in a culture. See, when you get comfortable, you fight over stupid shit, right?
Yes.
So there's a reason why this country was highly united and highly patriotic after World War II, and then there's a huge reason that after World War II, we've just all, who knows, just we
Yeah.
look and sound different. We've been more divided since World War II than ever before, and it's a constant more division gets. We constantly get encouraged to be divisive rather than supportive to each other and including each other. And when I say inclusive, I mean always. I don't mean just only
Right.
one type of people get included, but I'm talking about everyone. We fight. As a matter of fact, Friday we should talk about safe space, because you brought that up. So mark that down for one of our topics on Friday's show, and we
Sure.
do we the middle. Safe space needs to be discussed, because I don't think anyone's safe.
Right.
And the people that we think are safe, or that some of you think are being the ones that have disallowed safe spaces, are the least safe people right now. So that's a side issue. But what I'm saying is, no matter what steps you would come up with, Trinity, if you came out with 12 different steps, and trust me, those 12 steps have been people have tried to rewrite those 12 steps to avoid using the word God, higher power,
Yeah.
and it's just been highly unsuccessful,
Yes.
because at the end of the day, from day one of human existence on this planet, we have looked upwards, and we have looked like there is something else out there. Now, here's the deal, Trinity.
Sure.
For all the people who are non-religious, and I'm a non-religious person,
Same.
you have no issues believing in aliens. To me, it's the same. So to me,
Right.
because I'm non-religious, but I'm also non-alien, I believe in all of it. I think all of it is the exact same conversation.
Right.
All of it is the exact same figures. We just all call them different based on whoever came and talked to you or your people or the ones that you believe.
Right.
But we have no problem believing there's something else out there,
Right.
right? So let's go with that. If we can write it in a way that someone could say, okay, it doesn't have to have the word Jesus on it, or it doesn't have to use the word God the way you define God, because I use the word God, but I define it the way I define it. So, you may think, some people out there may think, hey, my religion owns that word. You can't use it the way you. No, I can use the word God.
Right.
I can use the word prayer. I can use all these
Blessed.
words. I say all these words. And so because I use these words, people go, oh, you must be Christian. No, I'm not Christian. I just don't think you own those words. I think that these are just good words that mean something good, and these are words that mean something that could help with that structure of I have to be held accountable to the greater good of what's going
Right.
on, and I
Well,
love that.
so we
But
have
I
a
think that's
comment
what it
here.
would take. All right, go for
We
it.
have a comment here from Lindy that I'm going to put up only because she sounds like my wife. She said it's about love, right? So one of the things my wife is not a religious person either.
Wait, your
But
wife's a
if my
hippie?
yeah, she is. She would say her religion is love. She would say love is my religion. Like in her mindset, love kind of conquers all type of a thing. And I gotta be honest, man, there's something to it, right? The older I've gotten, the softer I've gotten over the years, the more I realize, man, there is something to that. Like it sounds weak to somebody who isn't well versed in it, I guess. But
Right.
as you get stronger and as you learn more, man, there really is something to that, right? Like if we could bring it back to depression, one of the best ways to combat depression, from a spiritual sense, at least from the Buddhist philosophy,
Right.
is compassion, which is a form of love, obviously, but compassion for yourself, right? Compassion for those around you, compassion for yourself, in the sense of, yeah, it's hard times and I'm going through it, and that sucks. I'm allowed to suck. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. Doesn't mean I need to fix anything per se. It just means I have to have compassion for myself, and that, once again, it's a form of love, loving yourself and loving those around you. Is that possible? That's an argument to be had, right? Because there's always going to be people out there who just want to buck that system, who just don't have that kind of love. But I know I think there's definitely something to that. Um, Richard says you made it. Let me see. Let me put it up there. You made another great point, Trinity. You have gone soft. So has society. I think our definitions of soft are different, right? Like I think your definition of soft sounds more negative. My definition of soft means I'm not so rigid. I'm just not as rigid as I used to be.
Right. Well, no, look, I don't disagree with the love component. I disagree with how we are in this generation defining it. Unfortunately, if we would go by 60s definition of love, yes, I
Right.
absolutely agree with that definition of love. But if you go by today's definition of love, I don't. And even in the 60s, as beautiful as those of us that were only born in the 60s, but not 20 or 30 in the 60s, that all looks and sounds great. I'm only going by the proof at Woodstock. You know what I mean? People were able
Right.
to be together and not hurt each other. I thought that was a beautiful thing. But I'm also very cognizant of how my father was treated by those same individuals. When he came back from Vietnam, and
Yeah.
there was no love and compassion towards my father. There was a lot of attack to the point where his office was destroyed at Temple University in Pennsylvania after he had come back from Vietnam in one of those destructive, what would you call those, since we don't call them riots?
Peaceful protest.
Oh yeah, it was a protest.
Mostly peaceful.
Where my father was treated very poorly by those same loving hippies. So again, the problem with love is that we tend to point it like that way. You're the one not giving it, I'm giving it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the real human condition. The human condition is always I'm correct and you're wrong, or my way and your way is
Yeah.
wrong. And so since we cannot fix that globally, since unfortunately we cannot work through that, that's why we will continue to be separated, because that real definition of love would be all inclusive. And
Right.
unfortunately, the people that tend to say that, they're only viewing their own the hate that people have towards them only. Like, oh, because
Right.
you don't like me or because you said bad words to me, I deserve some heightened sense of it, and somehow I'm better at the love game than you are. No.
I win.
Actually, the people that used to be great at the love game right now are the worst at the love game. They are
Yeah.
absolutely hateful, hurtful, bigoted, biased, mean-sounding people. They hate people that just can't buy into all their wacky shit sometimes. And it's like, no, man, I don't love less. I love the word love. I really do, because if we could do that properly, then we could respect, like, things like we respect our family. Like, we're allowed to have family members that just aren't all together 100% there all the time. Great. You know what I mean? And you still love them for who they are, right?
Sure.
That's just my wacky uncle, right? You're allowed to do that. That's just the way he is. And we still love them, right? We still love them. But then we have people going on the news and on television saying, you're not even supposed to like your family from the past for things that they did. And
Right.
you're supposed to disown them and hate them. And so we're in a time now, Trinity, where we want to be depressed. We want to be anxious. We
Right.
want to be on edge because we use these things as tools to pull them to our side. We use them to control them. And to me, even Rage Against the Machine, which I love, F you, I won't do what you tell me, even their message can be used on both sides equally.
Yeah.
Both the Crips and the Bloods can use Rage Against the Machine for their messaging 100% right now. That's how you know how weird we are right now, Trinity. That's how you know how crazy
Yeah,
times are right
exactly.
now. When songs from Rage Against the Machine can be used by either side, we've gotten to a point where we're just not understanding each other. So of course we're depressed.
Well, I
Of
was
course
just
we're
getting ready to
anxious.
say that exact same thing. Of course we are. Is it any wonder that we are? I mean,
Right.
but that's what I mean by how much of it is just a human condition. How much of it is just where we're at right now.
Right.
I mean, like one of the main things that it says in depression is, do you not like to do the things that you used to do anymore? Well, no, they don't bring me the same joy as they used to. And not only
Right.
that, but I've grown, I've evolved as well. So some of the stuff I used to
Right.
enjoy, I don't really like anymore. Doesn't mean I'm necessarily depressed, just means I'm evolving, I'm growing. And sometimes
Right.
that growth is uncomfortable, right? I think back in my life,
Right.
every moment of ascension to that next plane has been uncomfortable. Every moment where I've
Right.
had like this weird epiphany, it was usually predicated or preceded by something not cool, like some sort of events, whether it be a specific thing, whether it be an environment, whatever it was really uncomfortable for me. It was really bad,
Right.
uncomfortable, whatever. And I came out the other side with that epiphany
Right.
and with that realization, with that ascension to the next.
Right.
But I was also open to that, and I
Right.
think that that's the problem is right now we're not teaching people to be open to those. We're teaching people to be further entrenched in whatever views they have.
Right.
Like, you kind of veered it a little bit towards politics. We're kind of there, right? Like, if you're a political person, you typically surround yourself with other people who view the same. Then you watch whatever channel that you agree with, and like you further indoctrinate yourself into what you think is right. Same thing with religion. Most religious people,
Right.
like a lot of them,
Am I frozen? I don't even know if I'm frozen or you're frozen, Trinity. All I know is I don't hear you anymore. Did you get canceled or did I get canceled? I don't know what just happened. Trinity, are you there? Am I there? I'm a little lost right now. I feel like you disappeared. Wait a minute, you're calling me? Yeah, Trinity. Oh, that's funny. So I'm here doing the show on myself. See, Trinity just got canceled, and we don't know how he got canceled. I thought it was me. So all right. So we could still hear you, Trinity. So hopefully we can still hear you. Hold on. I'll put you close to the microphone, Trinity. So when you talk, we talk. So
are you able to end the show on your end?
What do you mean?
Are you able? Do you have the controls?
Who cares? Who cares? Let's just keep going. So what happened to you? Well, no, All right. Well, I don't know. We're still talking, so keep going with your point that you were making.
I don't remember the point I was making. I think I was making that, of course we're depressed in today's world. I mean, there's so much going on, and we just, yeah, that's what it was. We further entrench ourselves into whatever, our go-to is. Like you said, the thought process is I'm right and you're wrong, and we've lost that ability to listen. Right? Like we talk more than we listen these days, and when you're talking, you're not really learning.
Right. Well, I think you're absolutely right with that, Trinity. I think that unfortunately we're at a time in our living in our life where we get sucked into so many things that really shouldn't matter to us as much, to be honest with you. I think that we just know too much information. I think that's why so many people that are older will say times were simpler before. And I think what they mean by that is not that these issues didn't exist, not that some of these problems didn't exist, but you didn't have to be concerned about them. You know what I mean? They didn't have to mean so much to you. We're constantly getting pulled into stories from outside of our neighborhood. Look, it's tough enough dealing with problems within your home, right? I think we can all agree that the problems even within our own home and our own family could be big enough, right? And some families more than others. So I don't need your family's issues and their family's issues and my neighbor's family's issues and then their neighbor's family. And next thing you know, I have the whole world problem on my shoulder. I have a niece that she is what some of you would call a social justice warrior. Only when you guys say it, you say it in a real negative way. And when she says it, she just means that she's a person of some principles and she wants to scream about it. And that's fine. But the issue with that is that once you get positioned a certain type of way, people stop listening to you. People stop hearing you. But also when you fight, I feel like she holds all the world's problems on her shoulder. And it's like, baby, you're too young, you're too beautiful, and you're too intelligent to have to try to take on the entire world's problems and feel so emotional. You're just an empath, you're a very empathetic person, and you're holding all of other people's pains as your own. And so, of course, after holding so much pain of other people, when you start speaking, of course, you're going to start sounding bitter. Of course, you're going to take on that anger and start sounding hateful and hurtful. And now you're going to mimic what you think you don't like. So that's the unfortunate thing with all of these things.
Yeah, no, I'd agree 100%.
That's all you got to say. This is a radio show. You can't just say I agree 100% and not talk more than that.
No, I mean, but that's, the problem is when it comes to like, hold on, I think I'm actually joining the, whatchamacallit, stream.
So let me update you guys while Trinity's trying to log back into this stream. Trinity's power went out. Now I blame you, Richard, because let me see. Let me go to your comment. Richard Coleman from Facebook Live said, I'm offended you keep calling me a blood. And what he's referring to is because I call all Republicans bloods and I call all Democrats Crips. And he says, I'm offended that you keep calling me blood. That is not one of my approved pronouns. I'm going to report this to Facebook and retreat and retreat to my safe space. I think he booted Trinity. Somehow, I don't see you to add you. How do I add you? All right. Well, Trinity just hung up. I don't see how I can add him. I wish I did, but I don't. So I don't know where Trinity is to add him. Let me say, nope. Don't know how to do it. Anyway, people, Trinity ended up getting booted out. His power went out at his house. Bear with me a second. Let me see if I can try to add him here. Let me see. Oh, no, not that way. Nope. I suck at this. Can't do it. Can't do it at all. So, anyway, people, I don't know what to tell you. He said to Adam, I don't see him anywhere to add him to this. He usually does this, not me. Might have to just cut this one short, and I thought we were having a good conversation going. Let me see if I can grab this and text it to him. Hold on. Let me see if I can do it this way. Copy this. Let's send it to Trinity. Let's invite him this way. Where is it? Where are you, Trinity? Where are you? Let's see. Right. Let's add it right there. Paste. Boom. Come on, you can hear me. I'll invite him that way. What's going on? We're talking about depression, and now, whoop, and then he went away on us. Let me see. Let me see what Linda's saying. Lindy Young, where are you from, by the way, Lindy? I don't believe I've ever seen your comments before. You're on Facebook Live. It says cat is won't, and won't is 50 push-ups. Yeah, I'm not allowed to do won'ts. Right? I got you. I got to be able to do it. I can do this. You're right, Lindy. I can do this. I can figure out how to bring Trinity back into the broadcast. I've invited him via text message. Hopefully he comes in somehow, and somewhere here he will show up. Oh, you're in Las Vegas. So Linda Young is in Bellingham, also Vegas. I love Vegas. I don't know where Bellingham is. Bellingham in Europe? That's what that sounds like. Let me see. Come on, Trinity. Show up somewhere. Why did he hang up on me? I don't know why he hung up on my phone part. Ay, Dios mío, Trinity. We're in the middle of a show. You can't just disappear. I'm going to call him. I'm going to give everybody Trinity's phone number, and just you guys can call him too. How about we do that? Oh, Washington. Hey, I invited you in a text message. Why don't you just click on that link?
I am. I'm in the backstage waiting for you to add me.
Well, where do I find you in the backstage?
In the bottom, it should show a icon with my picture on it.
But it doesn't.
So you just say add me.
But it doesn't. That's where I thought you'd show up, but it doesn't.
Well, my power just came back on, so once my router kicks back in, I'll be back on.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm here, and I don't see your picture anywhere. I wish I would.
Yeah.
Well,
my router's coming back on.
Well, we can have a discussion like this until you come back, I'm sure. It's not a big deal.
Well, I'm on. It shows me, it says you're backstage. Only the host can see you.
Do you want to see? Look, I'm gonna FaceTime you, Trinity. Answer your FaceTime. Look, the things that we gotta see. Look, Trinity, you see how you're not there? Yeah, but you're not. So I'll leave you like this so people can see you. Yeah, I'm going to hold you up just like this, Trinity. I'm going to hold you up just like that.
There you go.
You got something to say?
Yeah, I mean, my whole point, I'm still going to go back to, like, I think overall, I don't know what you were saying why I've been gone, but I think overall, we got to do a much more concerted effort in our country to address our spiritual growth, man, and address who we are and how we deal with things. I think we've become too superficial and too immediate, and we're no longer. Oh, here we go.
Oh, there you are. Wait a minute, Trinity. I can hang up on you here.
Yeah, there we go. Jesus, dude.
Look at that.
That was horrible.
And I didn't even have to invite you in. You just came right to the right in.
Yeah. I don't even know what happened, man.
Wow. That was
anyways, no, I think that, we got to do a more conservative effort, right? The thing that I have noticed, and once again, I apologize for whatever the hell just happened. And I don't know what you said when I was off, but I'm going to just pick up. Like with my own kids, there doesn't seem to be a major push at all to like develop mentally, right? We're all so well aware of mental health. We that word gets thrown around all the time. Mental health awareness, what?
Did he get thrown? Wait a minute. Did he just get booted again?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. I think I think most.
I don't even know if
A lot of them. What?
It just keeps on going in and out, and I don't know if that's you or me.
Yeah, I just think our signal here is
We are
wonky at the
having
moment.
a lot of technical difficulties right now,
Yeah,
Trinity.
it's
I'm
usually
gonna
your
go
end.
into depression. I know it usually is mine. You're right about that.
Yeah, so
Usually,
it's my turn.
yeah,
But no, I think when most people talk about mental health awareness, I think most of them are referring to either taking meds or going to therapy. I don't think that they're talking about
yeah.
the spiritual growth part of it, the foundational part of how we view ourselves, how we view each other, how we view the world.
All right.
They're not
It,
really talking about
right.
that.
And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because a lot of times when people say religion or spirituality, like they get offended or get upset, like it could become a heated issue, right? And the
Yeah,
people that are anti it, I don't think you're anti the messages that spirituality or faith gives. I think you're anti the leadership or the control factor, the authority of it. But I think all people have issues with authority. To be honest, I think most
right,
people have issues with authority. But I think, unfortunately, the messages that religion or that faiths or that even philosophy uh, promotes are good messages, are actually
agreed.
things that can help us live better and be nicer people and just love each other more. Unfortunately, though, we focus on the imperfections of those institutions and
Yeah,
then just blame everybody that has it. There's just so many hateful things that I see that people say in supposedly safe spaces about people of religion and faith, and I just think it's incorrect. I'm not saying that all people of faith and religion are void of blame in that. I'm just saying that there's a lot of hateful and hurtful things said about them, um, and I think they have some points to some of the things that they say,
right,
unfortunately, and so until we can come up with a consensus of what's okay to say when it comes to depressive thought or anxiety provoking activities or ideologies, then we're going to continue to be more and more anxious and we're going to continue to get more and more depressed, and just suffer. you know uh,
yeah.
it's a horrible deal because it's not a simple answer, Trinity. And I know this is
No,
Dharma time, so I think why Buddhism is not offensive is because it doesn't come with that authority figure. Buddhism
right,
doesn't come with this. It doesn't come with a pope. It doesn't come
no,
with a rabbi.
no.
It
Even the
doesn't
Buddha
come with
himself wasn't a god; he was
an
just a teacher.
imam. That's what I'm saying. I mean, most people think that little fat dude sitting down in his little squat
No,
that's Buddha, and even that
and
is
it is
not.
not.
Uh,
No, that is not the original
no,
Siddhartha.
that's the Chinese
Um,
rendition. That's
yeah,
China coming up with their own ideology of what Buddhism is or Buddha
yeah.
is.
Well, I think that for example, so what drew me to spirituality and Buddhism in particular, right? Because I think you know by definition, had I gone to a therapist at that point in my life, who knows? I could have been diagnosed with all sorts of things and been told to put on, medications, right? But instead, I found spirituality, and it kind of really spoke to me, and it helped me, wrap my head around some truths that maybe I didn't want to accept at the time. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear, right? Like, for instance,
Right.
the first truth, the first noble truth, pain is a part of life. It sounds so
Right.
simple, and yet we don't live that way, right? Like, we all acknowledge that sometimes things in life just aren't going to go your way. Like, there's going to be things that happen that you don't like, but somewhere in our livelihood or somewhere in society, civilization, whatever you want to call it, we stopped like adapting to that. We started wanting to say, well, I shouldn't. So instead of me adapting, instead of me understanding that basic concept, I'm going to try to fix everything I don't like. I'm going to try to get rid of everything I don't like. And so, like, for instance, when my son said, I want to be safe and comfortable, well, you don't have the right to be comfortable. Like, the idea that you can be comfortable 24/7 is just wrong, and you shouldn't be. Life doesn't work that way, and it's never going to. And if your goal is to constantly be be in a position of comfort, then you're going to be depressed. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be upset because the world doesn't work that way. You're always going to have moments of uncomfortableness. It's going to happen. And it's a part of life. And so what makes you suffer isn't the fact that you're uncomfortable. What's making you suffer is the fact that you're trying to not be uncomfortable. You're trying to push away whatever it is that's making you feel bad, or you're trying to chase whatever it is you think is going to make you feel good, as opposed to accepting the fact that this is where I'm at right now. And this is a part of life. And so for me, that's what drew me to it from an intellectual perspective is duh, right? Like, because we all know that. Every class I've ever taught, every group that I've ever ran, when I go over the first truth by it's just that one alone, I always ask everybody the same. I always started out the same way. If you met somebody and they said to you, "Hey, I think my life should be awesome and perfect. I think nothing should ever go against me. I think I should never be told no. I should never be stopped by a stoplight, or just nothing should ever happen that I deem as unsatisfactory." What would you say to that person? And universally, hands down, they've always every single one of them in every group that I've ever run all agree that that person's crazy. Like they would look at that person and say that's stupid, basically, right? For lack of a better phrase. Okay, so we all admit that that is unachievable. So then why is it every single time that something doesn't go our way, we get upset? We feel somehow offended. We feel somehow wronged. We get upset. We get mad. We go try to put out that fire. We get offended, right? As opposed to just saying, oh, there's life being life. That didn't go my way today. I guess I'm going to have to figure out something. Instead of responding that way, most of us get upset. We feel somehow infringed upon even though we just admitted that that's how life is. So we're getting mad for what life is. So it's not life, it's our interpretation. It's how we're responding to it. But we're not putting that out there, man. Like some of these things, like I was in my I think it was my late 20s, early 30s, I think, when I learned the third truth, which is still hands down after all these years my favorite one, and still the one that people have the hardest time wrapping their head around. I've had a gentleman, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. He was like in his 60s when we were in tropical. Amazing, nice gentleman. He was in his 60s, I think it was, when he first heard the third truth. He went his whole life and never even heard of the concept that you don't have to suffer. Why? How is it even possible that a human being who's somewhat worldly can make it to almost 60 or in his 60s and never hear of the concept that you don't have to suffer? You don't have to get angry at these things. Like it's not written in stone. Like yeah, like for instance, a flat tire. There was a time in my life where if I got a flat tire, I'm pissed, dude. Like I'm pissed. This is why does this happen to me? This sucks. Dang it, man! My whole day's ruined. Now I got to figure out how to do like duh. And most people would hear that and say, yeah, I get that. That's totally a reasonable response. It does suck because now it's interrupted your whole day, blah, 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 right? Well, you don't have to respond that way. Like there is a way of saying, yeah, that sucks. I wish it didn't happen, but now I'm going to move on. I'm going to figure out how to fix it and just carry on with my day and I'll accept everything as it is. That is such a foreign concept to so many people. So of course we're depressed, man. You're walking around thinking that you can change things. You're walking around thinking that somehow, some way that you have the this magical calculation in your head that if only I say this or do this, then my whole day is going to work out exactly the way I think it should. Never going to happen. And so to me, I think that aside from just straight up spirituality, whatever that version is for you, the only thing I've ever heard that I felt comes really close that isn't spiritual is the 12 steps. Because that's kind of what you're doing, right? Like my life is unmanageable. There's power greater than myself. It's all kind of along the same lines. Is it exact? No, but very similar. And it's somewhat innocuous, right? It says higher power, and that can mean anything to anybody. We all kind of know that there's a religious undertone to it, but if you take it at face value, it's a non-spiritual approach to things or a non-religious approach. And that's the only thing I've ever heard, man, that really comes close other than some sort of spiritual or religious component. And so I think it's just a travesty, man. I think it's a shame and a travesty that more of us don't get to experience that. At this point, it seems like really the only ones that experience that are either A, hardcore to religion, like a religious family, and even then, it's usually from a biased perspective, which could come with its own damage. Number two, people who've gone through addiction and rehab and 12-step programs. Or number three, people who've like dedicated their life to going to therapy and have been in therapy for like 20 years. If you're not one of those three, you most likely didn't really come across some of that stuff unless you're just maybe the fourth component, which would be somebody who just reads all sorts of philosophy books. Sorry, I had to make up for talking, man. I had no internet for like 10 minutes. So.
Of it all, man. No, I think one of the additional issues are that we want to assign blame when we experience this. So it's not only that we think we should not have uh, negative things happen to us and that we shouldn't have these discomforts. But also, we assign blame of the reason I'm having these discomforts is
Yeah.
because for some reason you've given that to me. I would have been fine, but you did this to me. You said this to me. You
Yeah.
acted like this to me. You treated me like this because of this. And then that victim mentality, that victimness that we're teaching as a society does not allow us to deal with depression, anxiety properly because it creates additional stress. It creates additional division and discomfort, and so it's really hard to be able to get into your own personal philosophies or spirituality or belief system and allow yourself to go through uncomfortable situations and just be like, well, I don't have to feel uncomfortable about this when we're being told no. You have to stand up, and you have to. The only way it's going to end is that you stand up and be just as angry as I am, and so the reason you're feeling like this has nothing to do with your own personal belief system. You don't have to change anything within you. You're beautiful and you're good just the way you are. The problem is them, and they have done this to you. And so that if you allow it, then you're part of the problem by just accepting this and processing it internally and dealing health in a healthy way internally. You're weak, and you're a person that's allowing this to happen, and they'll continue to do this not only to you but to your children, and after that, and the whole world's gone to hell. That's what we're being told. So
Yes.
so it makes it very difficult for normal loving people that could focus on these problems internally and deal with them and process through them in the way that you're saying, in a very healthy way, and it doesn't allow them to do that. They're trying to do that. They wish they could do that. We were going in that direction, Trinity. We were, and that's why all subject matter turns into a political discussion these days, is because we are being pushed and pulled into this political debate. We can't help it. We try to deal with a normal subject matter like depression, but we see the messaging that we're getting, the hateful, hurtful messaging that we're getting. It'd be great to just turn on the TV, and if I wanted news, I just want to know, what is happening around. Like, like where they say that like some Chinese rocket or some Chinese space debris is going to hit the ground. Just that alone would be fine. But I'm sure that someone will take that same exact message and make that into a political thing, and therefore it won't just be that this China thing is falling from the ground. It'll be like, well, it's Biden's fault or the orange man's fault, and that's why we're having, because that's where we're at.
Yeah.
So it doesn't allow our young children to learn that they have to that the pain is a part of life. What they're saying is, no, it doesn't have to be a part of life. Life is actually void of pain, and the reason you're having pain is because people don't love you because of your nose or because of your height
Yeah.
or because of your weight or because of your gender or because of your color. And so when we do that to people, we further damage them, and we strip them of their ability to self-heal. And that's one of our greatest gifts, right? To self-soothe. We have to know how to self-soothe, how to keep ourselves calm, and how to keep ourselves distanced from toxic energy, right? It's weird when the second I say that, I realize, wait a minute, there's a lot of young people today that are being told, hey, that's a toxic relationship. Like that's new terminology, right?
Yeah.
Toxic relationship. You hear that all the time now. You need to get away from that toxic energy. But how do you get away from the toxic energy that the person that just told us to get away from that toxic energy is actually toxic? That's
Well,
that's who's that's who's actually toxic.
that's the other thing that I thought of while you were talking, right? Is so there's another issue here, and the way this relates to depression is just maybe how we get ourselves out of it, I guess. Um, so you've said numerous times before on other shows, maybe not specifically related to this, but it kind of is, and that is, you don't get all, you get different things from different people, right?
Right.
So the other thing I'm noticing in where we're at right now, so if you're struggling spiritually, if you're struggling with maybe even depression or whatever it was,
Mhm.
too often do I see people go to the worst possible sources to fix it. Like, we don't pick up like a book on philosophy, for instance, a book that's been around for thousands of years that has stood the test of time. We don't go to a professional. We won't go to a therapist. We won't go to your priest or whatever. You won't go to the spiritual component. You won't go to like a qualified person. And maybe because you don't want to hear the answer. I don't know what the reason is, but instead you'll go to like your friend, And let's just be honest, your friend might not be in any better position to deal with the magnitude of whatever it is you're dealing with than you are, right? They're just as like my kids. Like they're being taught to like go to their friends or the internet, as opposed. And I would always talk to my kids like, "Well, it doesn't make any sense. You have people in your home right now who my sole purpose on life is to help you get to where you need to be. That's literally the only reason why I'm here right now is to help you and give you everything I can give you to give you the best chance. And I've got over 40 years of experience. I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. I'm well read. Like I'm here. I'm just use me. I'm at your disposal." And instead, they'll ask like their fellow classmate who is just as lost as they are, who doesn't know anything. And it's like, why would you forego this great source of information, this wealth of knowledge for that? And we're teaching that, right? Like we go to YouTube, we go to like I just watched earlier today. I was watching a debate, and it was a debate I was watching between the flat earthers and the scientists, right? So on one side you had like an astrophysicist who's got like multiple PhDs and stuff. You had a couple other scientists, and then you had like just regular folks. And the regular folks were quoting like YouTube videos versus these people who've studied like physiology, whatever, for like the last 20 years of their life. They've done miraculous like things to help humankind, and they're arguing with them as if their knowledge base is the same. And like that's part of the problem, right? Is like if I'm struggling in my marriage, like if I'm having like a weak moment in my marriage with my wife, I'm not going to go to my friend who is habitually single and cheats on everybody he's ever met for advice. I'm not going to do that, no matter how good of a friend he is. He might be my greatest. That's my battle buddy, man. We've been through it. The dude sucks at relationships, man. He's cheated on everybody. That's just not his thing. So why would I go talk to him about it just because he's my friend? He doesn't have the kind of authority or wisdom or knowledge I'm going to need to get my goal. I'm going to go to somebody like yourself who's been married for almost 30 years. You're probably closer to giving me some good advice than my single friend who's cheated on everybody. Like, but we don't do that. We don't turn to I remember my now 22-year-old. I was having a conversation with him about spirituality, years ago, because I was trying to introduce him to it. Because I would love to have been introduced as a teachable person much earlier to my spiritual stuff. It would have changed the whole dynamic of my life. So I was trying to, pay it forward. I was trying to be that person that I didn't necessarily have and talk to him. And all he kept saying was he wanted to do it on his own. All he kept saying was, I don't want to turn to anybody else. Where I was like, the arrogance that you have to think that you at 17 is going to figure out thousands or millions, depending on what you believe, years of humankind and all the complexities therein, you're going to just figure it all out. Right. No. Like the whole point of history, the whole point of us keeping books and things of that nature is to pass along the information and the knowledge that we've learned over the years. And that's why we can read things like Galileo or Plato or even Nostradamus, like all of our philosophers. That's why we have them around. Like, and if you start to read, what you'll be astonished to realize is there might be some outliers, but almost everything that you think is unique to you, any philosophy that you just came up with, it's been around. It's been around a lot longer than you might realize. If you just picked up a book, you might realize that there was somebody thousands of years ago who said that exact same thing that you just said. So you're not as unique and special as you think you are. We're all unique in our own way. We're all special and we're all unique, just like everybody else. Right? The point is, that's the whole point of history and things of that nature, is to learn from one another. But we don't do that. Like, I put it this way, man, the internet has been around in spiritual. Well, first of all, Buddhism itself, which I practice, has been around for over 3,000 years. It's actually older than Christianity. It's been around a very, very long time. And I've had books and everything else around me constantly. And then in my right when I graduated high school, I think the year I graduated is when the internet kind of like came out. And so ever since I've graduated high school, I've had access to the internet. In the last probably 10 years, I've had the internet in my actual pocket everywhere I go. But I didn't really learn more about spirituality and Buddhism until I was like in my late 20s. And I don't have any real justification for why I did that. I had all the tools around me, but I was just as guilty as everybody else in the sense of I didn't turn to that to learn more. And I think that that's part of the problem, is we don't profess that enough. We think that we can just pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. we think we can turn to our friend. We think we'll just figure it out or it'll just go away, and that's just not the case.
No, it's a self-esteem issue for sure. It's trust and self-esteem that keep us from reaching out and using others, unfortunately. Because so many of you out there that are listening to this or watching this, it says, I got to do it on my own. You didn't get into your situation by yourself. You know that, right? I mean, this was not just your doing. This is an accumulation of a lot of choices that you made, but there's also some external factors that had nothing to do with you. Plus, you had accomplices, right? You had accomplices that were
Yes.
with you going, yeah, good idea, great idea. Even to some of your worst ideas. I mean, some of my worst decisions, I've actually had accomplices that were telling me how great that decision was.
Same.
And to this day, even though that I've made a turn in my life and I've charged forward in a different direction, I can still find those same old friends, and they still think those decisions I made back then were good decisions.
Yeah,
They,
same.
they, so if we don't get here alone, why should we get out alone? It's a self-esteem issue. You feel like somehow you have to do something that you really are not empowered to do. And that's why I always take it back to the vehicle, because I'm not a car guy. I love vehicles, but I know nothing how to fix them. And so I don't try to do it. I couldn't even change the oil, and I'm sure I could. I'm sure I could Google and figure that out. But is that really doing it on my own? I mean, if I Googled or if I watched a YouTube video on how to do it, did I really do it on my own, or did I just get help right there? Only it's a person that I don't know. So maybe I feel more empowered and I feel more like a man because I did it on my own, but I didn't. There's no difference. There's people
Exactly.
that you're Googling, that you're watching, that you're listening to, but because you didn't go to the formal recommendation that maybe someone said, and because you didn't edify that person, you didn't look up to that person or trust that person, that's why it's a trust issue. You said that resource or that source is not good for me. I'm going to go in this direction and get the information over here. And I'm going to call this information over here me doing it on my own. And I'm going to call any resource that you gave me that I don't trust you as that's using other people. That's what
Yeah.
you're really saying, because you are using other people. You're not really doing it on your own. But what we need to tell you now, that's why we in recovery, we use you are not alone, you are not alone, you are not alone, because that loneliness, that feeling of loneliness is exactly what you need to feel to be controlled by humans, to be controlled by substances, to be controlled by your own negative thinking. If you're feeling alone and you're isolated, that's how you get eaten up. We see that in Trials of Life videos when I was a little kid. You still see that on nature videos to this day. The predator does not seek the healthiest of all pack animals. It finds the one that they can isolate from the pack. It chases them around to themselves. And once that weaker one is isolated, then they pounce. You hear it in abusive relationships.
Yep.
What does an abuser do? They separate ties. They separate you from your friendships and relationships. They separate you from your connectivity in life. So that way they have you alone. And when you're alone, you're more apt to be able to be controlled and used and hurt. That's what substances do. That's what negative chemistry in your head does. So you have not been alone. You're not alone. Stop even thinking that you're alone. You're a pack animal, regardless of what you believe. You're a pack animal. And find your pack. You'll hear a lot of people say find your tribe these days. I just say a little bit. I just say find your pack. Because you just gotta find it. Who am I going to run with? Because who I was running with was not taking me to healthy places. There's other packs out there that are the exact same packs. They're just not going to the same unhealthy places. And when you find that and you start maybe following some of the things that they're doing, then you'll feel a lot better. But if you're just out there wandering by yourself, and trust me, I was one of those people that I was always in a crowd, but I still felt 100% alone. So it really didn't matter that I was in a pack. I felt 100% isolated and alone, and I don't know why. I have no real factual reason why, no real reason why, but this brain had a way of doing that. And this brain has the ability of making you feel completely alone in crowded situations, has your way of feeling completely depressed in joyful situations, has your way of feeling completely anxious in calming situations. This brain has that power, but you have more power and control over this brain by letting go of the control that you're actually applying. See, the control you're applying is I'm going to take this, I'm going to use that, I'm going to avoid this, I'm not going to do this. I know that worked for you, but it doesn't work for me. By you applying that kind of control, you're actually hurting yourself. But by letting control and just do all the different actions that people have given you, all the different get out of that situation. Just work at it, see what happens. We always listen to drinking advice from a person who's actually drinking. We listen to drug use advice from people that are still actively using drugs. We listen to relationship advice by people who are actually divorced. We listen to financial advice by people that are just as broke as we are. They do these really ridiculous things and wonder why we're in this situation. Well, why? Why are you in that situation? You know what I mean? Because you have trust issues. You need to learn how to trust other people. You've been trusting yourself for too long, and you have been failing yourself. You have been lying to yourself. You've been putting yourself in these situations while you're sitting there worried you or that I'm hurting you. You're the one doing that to you. I haven't hurt you as much as you've hurt yourself, and yet you trust me less. What have I done to hurt you? And you ask yourself, what have you done to hurt you? And then you'll see what I'm talking about. And I'm not doing it in a mean or hurtful way. I'm doing it in an honest, truthful way. You just have to hold yourself a little accountable, and you have to do some heavy work that's a little bit different than the work you've been doing. Depression is something that you are unable to measure. I am unable to measure. I can look at the symptomology, and I can put you with the right professionals that'll diagnose it and treat it medicinally or even therapeutically. But at the end of the day, they're all suggestions. You're still going to have to put some work in, and the same thing with anxiety or other mental health issues. Now, do I believe that mental health is a great issue? I think it's a huge issue. I just think that we all suffer from a level of mental health issues, and we're all just a few life experiences away from destroying ourselves and other people. We're that close to even some of the worst human beings on this planet, and that's an unfortunate truth.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to assume that was your wrap up, because that was a beautiful mic drop moment. So I'll put my wrap up in it as well. First of all, thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for those of you who stuck around during whatever that situation was. So finally I get to be the culprit, right? It's usually your internet that's messing up, but today it was not only my internet. I raised you up one up, and I took my whole power off. So it's back on now. They sent me a text message. Apparently there was a problem and they fixed it. So yay. Anyways, I digress. Thank you again though for anybody who tuned in. Once again, as always, you can watch us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. On Tuesdays is Dharma Time. On Fridays is our political show where we cover the political topics of the day. It's called We the Middle. And then on Monday nights, you can watch it on the same platforms, or you can tune in live if you're local to 1680 AM or 100.7 FM. And then, of course, if you want to listen to the show afterwards, any podcasting platform, by all means, we're there. Like it, share it, get it to your people. We're only as good as the people who listen to us. So my wrap up for depression, man, is I think it's a very real thing. How you want to define it, we can go about it in different ways, but it's a very real thing. There's very real issues that we deal with, and sometimes and very frequently that's going to require the assistance of somebody outside yourself. I would encourage you to to do internal work and try to figure out what you can do, but I would also encourage you to step outside of yourself as well. A second pair of eyes isn't going to hurt you. And there's many different avenues to get that. Most people, if you're working, you'll have EAP. There's tons of different free resources online. There's suicide prevention. I mean, there's lots of different resources out there available to us that could assist. So don't just sit back. Yeah, telemed clinics is out there. My point is, don't just sit back and try to get yourself out of a mess that you didn't really get yourself in. Do your best. Michael wants me to text him. Sure. But anyways, for me personally, the greatest thing that I think, the greatest decision that I've ever made for myself was opening myself up to spirituality and really trying to look into that. I think that there's different levels to it, but for me, just being teachable and going outside myself to something bigger than myself, and really yearning to understand, not necessarily to follow, not necessarily to regurgitate, but just to understand it. And as I understood it, I started applying it because it just made sense. I understood it. I wasn't doing it because somebody told me to. I wasn't doing it because I was indoctrinated. I was doing it because, wow, when you know better, you do better. Where have you heard that from? So, anyways, that's what I got for today. Once again, I don't know if that study was the end all be all. We'll pay attention as it comes out. I just thought it made for a good topic, a good debate. And for those of you who participated and added your comments and thoughts, we do appreciate it, and we love it when you guys do that. So, anyways, I think that's all I got. Let me find this outro, and yeah, now that you know better, do better. Peace.